Good afternoon, everyone. This is Perry Mixter, Director of Client Services for Power2give, speaking to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. It's great to have everybody online today. This is a national webinar, so we have folks from all over the country joining us, and we're really excited to have you here and to talk about some of the finer points of promotion and project design for Power2give. This webinar will take probably around an hour or maybe just a little bit less. And the agenda for today is to talk about where we are with the platform. Continues to expand. We'll talk about designing a great Power2give project and how donors will find you, and some of the finer points of messaging for you to use. And then we've also generated some tips from successful posting organizations and some other resources that you can take advantage of online that we've found. So again, this is a broadcast only webinar, so I can't hear any of you, but we do have the ability for you to ask questions through this interface. So as we go through the webinar, please feel free to ask questions, or you can shoot me an email afterwards, but we'd love to be as interactive as possible. There is no such thing as a dumb question, so please please don't be shy. And I'll also give you a link for this PowerPoint where you can download the PowerPoint presentation at the end of the webinar. So hopefully we'll give you everything you need to get started. In terms of where we are with the platform, we've had some exciting growth over the last couple of months. We just launched our 20th site yesterday. We welcome the folks from Columbus, Ohio, Franklin County, Ohio, to the Power2give platform. And we also launched Seattle, Washington a couple weeks ago. So we have some new folks online out on the West Coast. We have more folks lined up, more sites lined up for the coming months, and a few more in the spring. So we are on average adding about one a month. So we're one site a month. So it's an exciting growth pattern that we're experiencing. To date, throughout all of our sites, we've raised almost $3.9 million from 1,735 projects, and we've processed 17,550 individual donations, and that does not include matching funds. So we are doing great work in a lot of different places, and it's exciting to see how the different sites are utilizing the Power2give platform. This is a map of where we are in the country, and you can see that we have a good penetration in the Southeast and Midwest, and we are beginning to expand nationally, and we're excited to have our West Coast friends with us as part of the platform. So we continue to press on. In terms of our results on a more fundamental level, the average gift on Power2give is $129. The most frequent gift that we're seeing is around $50. The average project that's posted is the budget is around $4,700, and we're still seeing a very strong funds of matching funds representing 45% of those funds raised. Each project obviously has up to 90 days to be on the site, but we're finding that the average project time on the site is 67 days. So some interesting data points for you to consider. Now, we don't track this in all of our sites. We expect the site administrators to do this for us, but in Charlotte, 45% of the donors making gifts on Power2give are new donors. So that's a very important statistic for us here, and that we are generating a lot of new support for the organizations that participate on Power2give. And we're finding that nationally, about 35% of the donors, Power2give donors, have given multiple gifts. So that's a significant thing to keep in mind. So again, some very promising findings from our first 2 years of operation. This graph is particularly interesting because it kind of shows you what happens with our projects. And this shows the funding percentage of all projects on Power2give and how that's distributed. You can see that about 50%, a little over 45% of all projects posted are funded at 100% of the budget that is listed for that project. But you see that there is a large bump in the 1 to 10% range. About between 20 and 25% of projects only get funded at the 1 to 10% range. And then you see how it declines between there and 100%. And the message that this tells us is that once you get past the 30 to 40% range, the likelihood of your project being fully funded is very good. So the critical element is for you to get past that low mark, the 1 to 10%, and that'll get you a very strong and impactful project that we think over time. So interesting statistic that we've found over the last couple of years. I think we've covered this in a lot of different ways, but the basic premise of Power2give is that the site host in your community, that would usually be the Arts Council or the Cultural Affairs Office, is responsible for promoting the site. And they'll do that through email messages, through their Facebook and Twitter feeds promoting the site, and PR media attention in the community. The site host, in most cases, will pursue matching funds, although it is possible for your organization to provide matching funds for your individual projects. And that's something you'd want to talk to your site host organization about, see if that's possible in your community. But the critical element of Power2give is that it is up to you as the poster of your project to promote the project to your constituents and to the community. This directly impacts the funding. We have found time and time again that if you just post a project and hope that people find it, that's not going to be an effective strategy for you. After 2 years, we've had a pretty good track record of taking account of what's worked and what hasn't, and just a brief summary of some of the challenges that we found out in the field. Primarily, this is a new platform. It's a new tool in our fundraising and marketing arsenal, and it does take some getting used to. For some of our larger institutions, Power2give kind of falls in between marketing and the development section. So we've had some situations where there is not ownership one or the other. And so that's important that those larger organizations sit down as a staff and figure out who's going to be the champion for Power2give and truly make it a staff-wide involvement. We have a lot of folks who've said, "Oh, I tried it once and it didn't really work, so it's not for us." And we encourage those folks to hang in there and work with us, and we're happy to help you analyze what worked and what didn't, because as with any new technology, it takes some getting used to, and we think that even the smallest organization can have success with Power2give. The critical element, which we'll talk most about today, is how to design a project that is engaging and unique. And there's a technique to writing for projects on the web, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. A lot of folks say, well, we're reaching the same old audiences with this pitch, and so what we want to do is to try to think through with you how to reach those new audiences with the message that you're sending. We have a lot of folks who, for whatever reason, are posting projects with narratives from old grant applications, and we very strongly discourage you from doing that, because really you want to write for brevity and for drama on the internet. Developing strategy for consecutive and overlapping successful projects is key. Thinking long-term about how you're going to utilize Power2give for your organization, and again, we'll touch on that in this presentation as well. So as we think about the projects that you want to post, just put yourself in the role of the donor, and what would you want to give to as an individual in support of your organization? What is it about the programs that you're doing that excites and energizes you? We encourage you to think about budget relief, funding things that you're already doing, but if you're doing that, make sure that you make it inspirational and impactful, and that you're making it compelling and project-based. All those things are critical elements to Power2give projects. And this is going to sound kind of strange, but we think of greater or equal importance is the fact that the title is clever, the narrative is clever, compelling, the photograph. I can't tell you how important the photo is in the listing. When people can find your project by that image, it's only a very brief chance that you have to capture their attention. So having a compelling photo and video is important. Writing donor benefits in such a way that they directly relate to the project. For instance, instead of saying, "Oh, for $50 you're going to get a tchotchke, a coffee mug, or something like that," tying the donor benefits so that $25 provides a week's worth of art supplies for a student. That kind of creative thinking for the benefits level is very important. And then how well you're going to promote and market the project is obviously very important. So first impressions, again, this is all fairly straightforward, but the project title, creative, eye-catching, making it compelling. Um, Again, photos, colorful and visible. Again, if you have a group shot, you might want to rethink that because the image is small on the project listing page. Make it something that people can identify with. Encourage you to use landscape orientation so that it fills that section, that project listing. And in the narrative, keeping it short and creative, transparent language. When I say that, that means basically being very specific about what you need the money for. Don't be shy about saying we need, $5,000 and 1,000 of it's for marketing, 1,500's for supplies, 1,500's for salaries, that sort of thing. So be very clear because the donors like to see that kind of specificity. Make it compelling, something that someone wants to learn more about. And we very much encourage you to include a 3 to 5 line budget, which includes the Power to Give administration fee. People don't mind seeing that in the project narrative. So your goal here is really to drive action. And I think what we've seen, the most effective projects are those that generate an emotional response, helping audience envision and feel their positive impact. I'll say that you'll see this throughout this presentation, but we want you to both inform and entertain. We've seen most projects that succeed have a degree of humor, where it's it's a little bit on the edge, and we've seen that be very, very effective. And then as you write that narrative, use this as a kind of a benchmark. Is my narrative capable of providing that emotional response? If it is, yes. If not, you need to keep working on it. So keep in mind what those elements are as you write your narrative. We encourage you to write in the active voice because the passive voice is weak and requires additional words to convey a similar meaning. Think about talking, speaking your presentation. What would you say if you were standing in an elevator and you had 30 to 60 seconds to tell your story? It creates a conversational tone and it may reduce the overall length of your content. And think about how that might be effective in your narrative. Again, as you get used to this, it's going to become easier rather than more difficult to put this together. Write in 1 to 3 short paragraphs using white space, and we encourage you to utilize the formatting functions for bullet points and graphs and charts. And again, donor benefits is a great place to use bullet points to be concise. And eliminate redundancies. Everybody knows you're asking for money, so you don't have to state we need your help. We encourage you to cut your narrative until there's really nothing left to cut. And think about cutting syllables as well as cutting words. Just be very conservative with that time. You can write a huge narrative, but I don't think it's going to be impactful for this Power to Give platform. We also obviously encourage you to think about putting yourself in your audience's shoes. Speak to their needs and wants in their voice. Communicate what they want, not what you want. And if you can develop a go-to and a collaborative sense with the creative writers outside your traditional spheres of influence, we've partnered here in Charlotte with a headline writer at the local newspaper. And she's been very helpful in kind of critiquing project titles and narratives as to their effectiveness for that quick read. And the video, cannot underestimate or underemphasize or emphasize strongly enough how important having a video is. 30 to 60 seconds. Again, it doesn't have to be a high-end production. You can use your smartphone or your computer to tell that story, to put that face, the child that's being impacted by your project. Put that face there with your project, and it's going to be you're going to hit a home run using an effective video. I think the bottom line on all this we want to leave you with is that we want you to tell a story. Why is the community better when this project is complete? all of your messaging should lead with the impact and the benefit of the project, not leading with the ask or the match. I've given some examples here of poor messaging, which would be give to our project, help our fundraising, or give because your dollars will be matched, as opposed to you ought to inspire the next generation of scientists, or view our choreography sharing her vision for the future, or expose fragile neighborhoods to art through murals. So all of those impactful storytelling related messages are going to really drive home your point a lot better than a plea for funds. So to summarize, and not to belabor the point, but to tell the story through the narrative and through the project promotion is really the key to your success. Tell the story and invite the donors into the story and make them want to care that the project is going to be a success and that they have a chance to be a part of it. Just pause here, see if anyone has questions. I don't see any questions. Someone can't hear me, but I think I'm still broadcasting, so I think we're okay there. Please feel free to ask questions as we're going along. We'll be glad to answer those as we pause. Just to show you a great project example, this is a project out of Indianapolis that we've seen, and this is a project by Dance Kaleidoscope, and it's taking the next step. And you see how short the narrative is. Every dance student deserves the opportunity to follow their dream. I think that's a very strong first sentence. Help support scholarships for talented, financially burdened students to attend Dance Kaleidoscope Summer Intensive 2013. And it goes on to just briefly describe that. And then their video, you can see, is a fairly low, obviously done very cheaply. Let's listen. So you can see that was a very quick, easily produced video that tells the story, I think, very dramatically. So again, it doesn't have to be terribly complicated, but it tells the story and gets the message across. So let's talk a little bit about targeting your message. As we know, not all projects will appeal to all persons. So who are you actually trying to drive to your project? It's very helpful to think about 2 to 3 very specific constituencies to target for your project. Is that your board who can help you? Seasoned subscribers, perhaps, parents, young adults with children in the household. Again, it depends on your project, but you can very quickly identify 2 to 3 constituents or stakeholders that could help you spread that word in the viral manner that social media can provide. So again, we've covered this in other presentations, but developing a very simple project plan, and I've got an example here in the narrative in the presentation that you can look at to think of an engaging name for the plan. What are the top 3 groups that you want to engage? And then as you think of those groups, who could be the key project advocate for your project within that constituency? And then ask yourself the question, what are you trying to get your target audience to do? Obviously, you want them to give you a financial contribution, but what else are you asking them to do? In my view, you should be asking them to become part of your organization, and this is the doorway through which they get familiar with what you're doing. Um, why should your target audience care about the project? What is it in it for them? Um, if you can identify the actions that you want them to take, then think about ways to motivate them. And then some of those constituents are best reached with social media. Others are reached through stage presentations and other more traditional forms of contact. Again, you can think about how you're going to connect with each one. This is a simple plan, a simple chart of a project promotion, which goes from the very general on the left uh, in terms of concept over to the specifics on the right. So you have the project name in the first column, target audience in the second column with three different ones suggested here for this particular project, and then who's that ambassador for each of those audiences, the call to action for each of those target audiences, the message that you want to make with each of those, and then what are the strategies, personal appeals, personal challenges, and then tactics. How will you connect with them? Is it email? Is it Facebook? Is it an announcement? So again, you'll have this presentation. You'll be able to use this as a template to design something for yourself. And really, this is not rocket science. You can probably come up with this in about 20 minutes for the project that you want to put on Power to Give. And again, just to reiterate, for each constituency, who is that person that's going to be telling your story? And it's important to have buy-in on the board level. And I'll talk about that in just a second. Again, we've talked about a lot of this. Really, the gift is less than half of what you want. You want these folks to share your message um, and talk about how it's going to impact in your community. And again, for those in the marketing business, this is probably very redundant, but there are endless ways to message. Emails. Think about a timeline for sending out email messages at the launch of your project, when there are 30 days left in the project, and when there are 7 days. You can build that intensity and propelling you to the end of the project. We encourage you not to do mass email. Again, to target as much as you can your key constituents. Be careful not to over communicate, because you can certainly go too far and upset people with too many messages. But figure out ways you can find maybe several zealots that can spread the word in different ways. Are there opinion leaders in your community that may not be directly connected to your organization who could speak on your behalf? Again, all different ways that you can get the message out in different unique ways. And again, using social media. Now, many of us are new to social media and we're still testing the waters. And if that's the case, Power to Give is a great way to do just that. Social media, include your permanent Power to Give URL on your organization's Facebook page. And again, promoting specific projects with a specific URL, but keeping in mind that that specific URL expires when your project does. So we encourage you instead, in general, to use that permanent URL whenever possible. Twitter, for those of us who like to check our Twitter feeds, including the project's URL and in the Twitter feed, as well as a hashtag, hashtag Power to Give, is going to help spread that message. This is one we found here in Charlotte, which we really liked. Again, this utilizes the gift card function, but this is an email that I received from the Carolina Actors Studio Theater, and they had a I think it's a pre-concert event last May, and as part of the ticket purchase for that event, they get a $10 Power to Give gift card, and then they can use that to donate to a cast project during the party. So again, they fulfilled two different objectives. One is to get people to buy tickets to this pre-concert event, but also they use the event to promote their Power to Give project. So again, something to think about. At events, if you have the ability to display a QR code that would go to your project listing page, having laptops or tablets available at your events for instant Power to Give access, and again, virtual or physical gift cards are also an option for you to consider. So we have that capability. And again, more traditional methods, event banners, e-newsletters, curtain speeches, personal solicitations, and again on print media, uh, taglines, and we've also seen some very effective use of media sponsors for Power2give, posting thermometer graphics in the paper, weekly free newspapers, very effective way of utilizing traditional media. Want to remind you, if you haven't used it, that you need to utilize that dedicated URL which appears on your project dashboard when you log in to the Power2give system. You'll see that, and you'll see the one that ends with your organization's number. That's the URL that you need to embed in all of your websites, email taglines, signatures. That way people can always click on that dedicated URL and go straight to your projects at any time, no matter how many you have active at that current moment. So make sure you utilize that URL that we give you. Now, we took a couple of projects and analyzed how the funds came in, and we noticed a couple of different strategies that we're seeing more and more frequently. These are some different promotional strategies. The first one here is one for a project we called the strategy is a push coast push initiative. You can see that at the first few days of activity, there's a strong amount of activity and a strong amount of response. Then things leveled off a little bit. Then towards the end of the project, about 30 days out, there was a lot more activity, which got them up to their level. So that's one strategy that they had. Obviously, different periods of time when they're going to be promoting their project in the community. Here's one that clearly this organization had several major big gifts. I think they're $2,000, $1,000 or $2,000. And the organization used those gifts to encourage others to give. So you can see how that impacts the giving timeline and impacted their success. And the third one is a concentrated deadline campaign. This organization raised $4,000 in 5 days for a $4,500 project. So they really pulled out all the stops as they approached their funding deadline. So again, it all depends on how you want to do it. We've seen a lot of success with using different types of approaches. As I mentioned earlier, we want you to encourage your board to be participants in all this. One of the things that's critical is that you have institutional buy-in internally, so that it's not just one staff member pushing Power2give. We encourage you, as you contemplate posting a project, to go to your board or your volunteers or whatever your organizational support system and share 2 to 3 ideas that you have put together that could be projects for Power2give. Get them to vote on the one that they think is most exciting, and then get them to make a commitment to help you promote the project. We have emails and templates on our marketing toolkit that you can use to send to them. They can edit and send out to their boards and their spheres of influences. So again, use your board or your whatever support network that you have to be part of your team. It doesn't have to be just you as a staff member. Matching funds are important motivators for donors, so you can bring your own. And again, this is specific to each site. We're doing this in Charlotte now, where we have a theater company who has a board member who's very excited about one of their projects, and they have provided $5,000 in a matching fund for a $10,000 project. So if that's something that your site host organization will allow, that's something that we encourage you to do. We do believe strongly that ambassadors are really key on the board level, on the staff level, on the artistic level. Tell that story through that person, involving the key advocates who want to see that project succeed. And again, make sure that these are volunteers who are enthusiastic about it and that just isn't another assignment. Some hints for new donors. Again, the power of this platform is social media links embedded in the platform. When you write to thank your donor for the gift, encourage them to encourage your existing donors to use them. Everyone can send emails to family and friends, and most can post a message on their Facebook timeline. So ask them to do that when you send the personal note of thanks as you've received those gifts. Um, and again, project content drives new donors. You know, a new computer system may not appeal to new donors, but projects with direct community impact will. So pick your project carefully, as we've talked about. Media coverage always helps. We've seen some really, really terrific media coverage. In fact, Columbus yesterday had a front page Columbus Post-Dispatch article about Power2give, and that's really helping to drive their awareness, the brand awareness in their community. The next couple of slides summarize some suggestions from the folks here in Charlotte and elsewhere that we sent out a message saying, tell us what works for you. And these are just some things, and you can read them. I won't go through each one, but again, using the board to engage family and friends, personally reaching out to current donors. Not again, notice it's not a mass email; it's a personal contact. Personal emails are much more successful than a mass email. We've had one organization here in Charlotte have a first-time giver to one of their Power2give projects about a year and a half ago. I learned just a few weeks ago that person has made a six-figure commitment to the North Carolina Dance Theater, this great organization here in Charlotte. So think about how you steward those donors through Power2give. What are you going to do with them once they make a contribution? They should be part of your organization or your fundraising pyramid. So we encourage you to do that. For successful projects, look at, again, one of the groups said fund projects for things that you're going to have to buy anyway. But the key there is to connect the project to the mission of the organization. If you need a light board or you need a new roof, tell the story of how that's going to make a difference in the mission of your organization. So again, different approaches have great success. Projects that provide opportunities to traditionally underserved audiences have been easiest to fund. That's clearly something we're seeing here in Charlotte, and I'm sure it's the same elsewhere. Engaging copy. At the risk of overstating that, engaging copy is important. And we found here in Charlotte that humor definitely helps. To have clever and funny promotions within Power2give really is an effective tool. And again, if you get to the point where your project is not fully funded and you cannot undertake it, which we've very rarely seen, actually you can turn this a negative into a positive, and by being honest with the donors and engage them as to how they would like to see their funds used, if that's the case. So they can get involved in different ways, even if you don't meet your total goal. Again, promoting the live projects through your other marketing outlets, e-blast, e-news, website, all that sort of thing. Again, thinking about one or at most two projects at a time we think is the most effective strategy for using Power2give. And if you do have two projects, make them substantially different from another, either programmatic versus equipment projects or small versus large. Make them substantially different so that your donors don't get too confused with what you're trying to promote. We really think the most effective strategy here is having a rolling pipeline where you post one project, and when it gets near to full funding, post the next one, and then have that continual rolling activity. So there's always something going on the platform for your organization. And again, we encourage you to look at the completed project section on the website. If you go to a website and any of our sites and click on the projects tab, and you'll see the active sites. But if you scroll down and hit the completed projects tab, this will show you all of the projects that have been posted in the community, and then you can search on the type of organization you represent and see what's happened in other communities. It's a terrific tool for you to learn about what's been successful. We've had a couple of organizations seek out professional, high-tech folks, social media marketing clubs, young professionals, getting them to adopt Power2give as as a pet project. They can come in and critique your ideas, help you make those social networking links that will be effective for to promote your site. Um, and again, developing those long-term strategies are effective. Um, we're about coming to a close here, so if you've got questions, I'll take those in just a second. These are some online resources that we have found about social media. Beth Cantor's blog is a terrific resource for learning more about social media. There is tourismtech.com has a section on social media for arts organizations. Constant Contact is another great one. And technologyandthearts.org is a great website for additional links in the social media field. So we encourage you to have those at your ready. Want to make sure that you know to utilize the donor reports that power2give provides you when your project is active and after it closes. It's very important for you to analyze your donor list to see how many of those are new and to develop a strategy for reaching out to those donors when they make that gift. We've had one question about the column where you see do not contact, and that's not so much instructions for you not to contact them, but it's really they're answering the question, do not send me power2give information. So we actually encourage you to ask that question when you reach out to that donor after they've made their gift. Is it all? And most people are very open and willing to receive information from your organization. So don't let that discourage you. So to summarize, to be successful in power2give, you have to design compelling projects. To be successful in power2give, you need to institutionalize it within your organization to involve all your staff and board. Try to avoid silos. To be effective, you have to develop simple promotional campaigns, not waiting until the last minute to promote them. Keeping in mind that most successful projects are funded in less than 30 days, and in some cases, it's 30 to 60 days. And we encourage you to think about how to use those power2give features embedded in terms of social media, email, Facebook, Twitter, to leverage those donors and reach new projects. And then once your donors are on board, figure out ways to engage them in your organization. So that's coming to the conclusion of our presentation. Let me see if there are any other questions. Not seeing any questions here. Some concerns about no audio or sound, but it's telling me that I'm broadcasting, so I think we're still okay. I'll stay on the line for just a few minutes to answer questions, but that concludes this power2give marketing seminar, webinar. The link for the presentation is there, so you can copy that, and if you click on that link, you can download the PDF of this presentation. I very much would like to talk to any of you that have questions specific about your projects, and my email and phone number are listed there. We want to be a resource for the entire power2give universe, so to speak. So please don't be shy about asking questions or how we can help promote or support you in your efforts to utilize power2give. I want to thank you all for listening, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again, I'm sure, in the next little while. And again, feel free to contact me at any time. Thanks again, and have a great day.